I founded Highlighter, and when you leave your sport and when you leave the performance behind, it shows up in weird ways in your life. I would be working like 20 out of 24 hours. There was no like checkpoints like you're doing great. So I was just overdoing work for, I want to say 2.5 years straight, no days off. I'm just chasing perfection.
Do you feel like that is beneficial in your life now as an adult?
Oh, that's a really good question. There was a freak accident that happened to me senior year with volleyball. This is going to sound fake, but I had an allergic reaction and I ended up in the hospital. They claimed that I had a ruptured aorta that essentially ended my volleyball career. Cheerleading wasn't sanctioned by the NCAA, so I was able to medically get cleared for cheer. I've always been around basketball. If you see my old Facebook, I was literally traveling with the AAU teams, not playing, just...
No, you weren't.
Like, it was crazy. Going to basketball camp for what? Anyway, but no, these are like, you can look this up.
Incredible.
I started observing in 2014 that people weren't talking to my friends who played in the league. They weren't sharing their stories. And so I started putting up my phone, like on a table, and recording interviews and putting them online. And somebody told me, I think in 2015, that nobody's going to take me seriously because I was a cheerleader. So I said, oh, I naturally have to gain credibility. Frankly, Billie Jean told me that it's my turn. So it wasn't motivation. It was a demand. It was a demand.
Get to work.
There's so much to be done on the women's sports side. Until that is all smoothed out, then I don't stop.
Hi,
Buki.
Welcome to No Former Athlete Podcast.
Woo-hoo! We out here in California.
That's right. I'm so excited for you to also get to talk about and share your athletic history, because I think it's a little different than what people probably think your athletic history is.
What gave it away? The 6 feet tall?
Yeah, potentially. Where did sports start for you? What sports did you play growing up?
Okay, well, the first sport that I did was Taekwondo.
Incredible.
So my parents wanted me, Taekwondo is rooted in self-discipline, and they wanted me to go that route. I'm the only child, so they were like, you need community. Here's additive lessons in your self-discipline. But then Taekwondo, I was tumbling. I went to a first degree black belt, but like I started when I was 4, and we were tumbling within it. That martial arts that has that acrobatic feature of it. And I was like, I really want to cheer. My dad was like, LOL, yeah, you're going to still do Taekwondo. If you continue to work towards your black belt, you can cheer. And so I cheered at the same time. And then... This is so ridiculous. In first grade, this girl, Jordan Basket, I will never forget, could do 21 pull-ups. I just remember this. And I was like, how can you do so many pull-ups? We're 6. Yeah. And she was like, I'm a gymnast. And I was like, Dad, Mom,
I'm
Dad,
now a gymnast.
I have to get into gymnastics. Mind you, I was 5 feet by the time I was 8. But like, so I was 6 about like 4 or 9, which is like Simone Biles' height now. But I got put in gymnastics too. And so it was Taekwondo, cheerleading, and gymnastics. And then swimming was something that like our neighborhood has a swim team.
Okay.
And volleyball didn't come till later because I was so cheer.
Yeah.
But cheerleading was my main sport growing up. I got really serious about volleyball preteen, teen years. And choosing between cheerleading and volleyball in college was pretty difficult, I ended up going the cheerleading route. But that's how it started. Okay. And mind you, I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, which is a really, really big basketball town. We're a city, period. And Coach K. Yao was the NC State women's basketball head coach. But at the same time, Coach Kathy Bucky was the head coach of cheerleading, and she owned my all-star cheer gym. Okay. And so it was, there was no sport level difference between basketball and cheerleading. And that's factual, right? Cheerleading is a really, really difficult contact sport that people don't realize. And we have head-to-head combat. I never cheered for people until later in life. And so the sport of cheer was the same level to me as the sport of basketball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and also, number one, schedule-wise, which I think a lot of people forget to process. That like, also, whether it's you guys have your competitive cheer competitions on the side. So like that's your
like every weekend.
That's your tournament, right?
But like every weekend.
Exactly. And then you're also doing sideline things at games.
I did it growing up. Okay. So I didn't cheer in school until high school. So I did competitive cheer my whole life. And that's interesting because the sport of cheer has 2 different components, right? Like it's almost I'm not going to say it's two different sports, but sideline cheer and doing it for games is very different. But the schedule is still very demanding for all-star cheer. You have practice, you're like a child. You're like 5 to whatever. And you're at the gym 3-4 times a week, and the practices are 3-4 hours a piece. And some people drive a long way to get there.
Right.
And so you're practicing until like 10 p.m. on a school night. You have to prioritize. So even though we weren't cheering on the sideline back then, it was still very demanding.
For sure. And you're still traveling just as much as any other.
Oh my God, it's probably worse.
Well, and two, there's not like, okay, you can go to a city and it's like, oh, there's probably multiple soccer clubs. There's multiple places doing this. And there's still going to be probably options of like what cheer group, what cheer team you want to be on. But there's not going to be as many. So then, like you said, more people are traveling to get to the top one. Especially, and then you're traveling to competitions further. Especially
when you are... when your goal is to get to a certain level of cheerleading, you have to pick a bigger gym. So when I was growing up, my gym was 5655 Western Boulevard. And so like that was my home. I was not going to leave. You had to go to either Raleigh or Kernersville in order to be super competitive. People just drove. I am lucky enough that I'm from Raleigh. So all the major cheer gyms were in Raleigh. You didn't need to go. But I had people who were from Dunn and Butner that would just come to the gym, and it would be a longer drive for them. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like youth sports in general, right? It's just like that commitment. And then that's what we're all doing. Yeah. And that's what we like, oh, sorry, I can't. I have practice.
I have practice.
I literally have practice. Again, yes.
I have to go throw and get thrown.
Of course. Of course. The volleyball cheer split. When did you make that decision before college? Like how early into high school did you have to make that decision, and what things went into that for you?
So I didn't start getting good in volleyball until I was like 15, right? So like I was a middle, and I'm a strong defensive player. I wasn't that great offensively. I say I wasn't that great, but I was still all state. So it wasn't like
you were taking care of business.
Through my lens, my strength is blocking. That I am a blocker. That is like my thing. And it's transferable to cheerleading. For tumbling, you set, especially standing tucks, you set. And in volleyball, you block. It's the same 100%. Vertical to penetrate there.
Yeah.
But there was a freak accident that happened to me senior year with volleyball. That essentially ended my volleyball career, and cheerleading wasn't sanctioned by the NCAA, so I was able to medically get cleared for cheer. That's really what happened. Like as candidly as I can say. And I went to UNC Charlotte my first year, and I did a different style than I had ever done, which is stomp and shake cheer.
Okay.
And then when I went to NC State, I did all girl. So there are different types of cheerleading. There's co-ed, large co-ed, small co-ed, all girl. Yeah. I did stomp and shake. I did all of them. But yeah, so I didn't make the decision. The decision made itself for me. That was back when. This is way too much information. You didn't ask for all this.
You're great. This is where you get to talk about yourself. So welcome.
Morphine syndrome was like huge in the news, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, everybody who's long and tall has Morphine syndrome." I had this is going to sound fake, but I had an allergic reaction to oranges or some type of citrus. And I ended up in the hospital, and they were like, have you always been flexible? I'm like, yeah. And they looked at my fingers. They're like, oh, they're long. You have Morphine syndrome. I was like, I literally don't. And they sent me to the hospital to get a scan, a scan of my heart. Yeah. They claimed that I had a ruptured aorta, which is not a thing for me. I don't know why. Anyway, it made me not be able to play volleyball anymore. It was the whole thing. It was the most dramatic story that sounds fake that you will know, but that ended my volleyball career.
So then they just wouldn't sign off because they wouldn't medically clear you.
Wouldn't medically clear.
Which also people forget about that, because before seasons they're like, okay, you have to go get your physical from your doctor. And then everyone's like, okay, I'll just go do it, check off that box. But it's like, if they say no, holy shit.
But ending up cheering in college, that's way more physically demanding than volleyball. I can say this because I played both, or I did both. Cheerleading is so much more physically demanding. So that's kind of concerning that back then we didn't have to get the same type. We had to get medically clear, but you could just go get a random physical. But like, it's really concerning because cheerleading is the hardest sport. It's the most physically demanding one. We condition like football, I say that y'all throw balls, we throw people. So it's just so much more difficult and so much more straining on the body that it's interesting to me that that's the choice. And that's how I know my heart is not ruptured, because if I didn't drop to the ground from cheer, then heck,
Yeah. But that's nuts.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I'm so grateful for your
I'm alive.
And I'm so grateful for your sake that like you were able to still compete in something.
Yeah.
Like the fact that
I would
those
have
were your
lost
two
my
options.
mind if I did not have.
Well, and like, what if you were like contemplating between basketball and volleyball or something? They would have been like, no, you can't do either.
Yeah.
And then if all your options were just pulled off the table.
Yeah.
If you're years out from your last game and something still feels off, you're not alone. Most retired athletes don't even realize that they're carrying the weight of an identity loss they never processed. We designed a breathwork experience specifically for retired athletes that helps you release what's been sitting in your body since you stopped competing. The emotions you were taught to push down, the doubt, the disconnect. This breathwork is completely virtual and takes less than an hour. I've done breathwork with this facilitator over 100 times, and I promise you, every single session hits different. I used to think breathwork was woo-woo, and now it's a non-negotiable part of my routine. Lifetime access, one purchase. Grab the discount in the description.
So when I transferred to NC State, I started with club gymnastics because I was like, let me just get my tumbling back because it wasn't required for like stomp and shake cheer. So it was an interesting transition, but I'm glad I ended up where I was. It's a full circle moment because again, Kathy Bucky owned my cheer gym growing up and she was the head coach. She wasn't the head coach when I was there, obviously, but it was just like very full circle for me.
Yeah. Okay. You are now how tall?
I'm 6 feet tall. And I grew in my 30s. Like, why am I?
No,
I was 5'11" before COVID. I swear. I have no idea why I'm growing in my foot group. Anyways, that's
okay. Gymnastics, like you said, you were already over 5 feet when you were young.
When I was 8.
Yeah. How did you do that? Being that tall, and like at some point, did they say you're too tall to do certain things?
Well, yeah. The second I turned 13, they pulled my mom. They were like, "Hey, she's a giant. Get her out. It will never happen." And so it was a smooth transition to cheer because I had been doing it simultaneously. And to be very frank, the technique in cheer is so different than gymnastics with little small elements, even how you hold your tuck, like how you prep for different passes, how you train. So I wasn't the prettiest gymnast anyway. Like, so it was probably best. And and I would say bars was my weakest event, obviously, because it was really hard adjusting to my height and, you know, getting your hips up like that when you're that long and worrying about your limbs being in the perfect position. It's way too deep to get into with like looking and feeling. But I was not meant to be a gymnast. I love gymnastics so much. I ended up coaching it later in life. But it was not the right sport for my height and size. It just wasn't. And I respect that.
Yeah. No, that's so valid. I think I was never an impressive gymnast, but I did gymnastics when I was young up until 6th grade. So that hit that like 11, 12. And they were like, I was transitioning into starting to play travel soccer. So like time-wise, it wasn't going to work anyway. But then my coaches were basically like, yeah, that's great timing because you were about to be too long.
Be too tall
like
anyway.
You weren't going to be able to.
But didn't gymnastics help your footwork in soccer?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Everything.
Everybody should either do dance or gymnastics.
And just body control in general.
Knowing how to fall.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I was a soccer goalie when I played soccer.
See?
So like I did everything a little weird because like I
seems logical to me.
Volleyball like a soccer goalie, and then I had a lot of weird cross training things, but the body control from gymnastics is incredible.
Even how to use your different muscles. I get a level of confusion when people don't know how to just isolate different muscle groups and aren't comfortable with inverting. And I just don't realize. I realize now how important it was to acquire those skills when you're super young, so you know how to move your body growing up.
Yeah.
With anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I always joke I did a circus camp one summer.
Oh, that sounds fun.
College. It was a blast.
Sounds so fun.
But it was interesting too because I think I was like 8 or 9 and again, never really had thought about it, but like there were certain things that they let me go do and like do like some of the like cloud swings and things like that were higher up because I could control my own body weight because I had already done all these other things. So so pivotal in being an athlete.
Fun fact, Cirque Fitness is where I land now. I love Lyra. I love anti-gravity yoga. Anything with like silks and like Lyra, I am living.
Yeah.
So.
go there. What does everything look like now for you? You cheered through college, like you said,
and pro, yeah.
Yeah. How long did you cheer after college?
Till 2018, so 5 years after college, and then I essentially had to pick between journalism and pro cheer, so that was annoying. But now I'm a distance runner. I do a lot of running. My sweet spot is 5 to 10K, but Nike somehow tricked me into this half marathon. They're like, "Hey, you want to bid for a marathon?" I was like, "Ah." So next year I will be like, "You'll hold me accountable. I will run the full next year."
Oh,
I just am so thrown off at that. The finish line for me in June was somebody's halfway point. I am learning that that's going to have to double, and it's a lot more training than I realized. And we glamorize it on social media, but you can't cheat running. You literally can't. If you cheat it, it will destroy you.
Absolutely.
But it's such a community. It keeps me disciplined. It's incentivizing, and it's routine, and then you can do it anywhere. So that's one. But when I am home, the rare times I am home, I love anti-gravity yoga because it's just you get all of your pressure points massaged. It's like a deep tissue massage as you're being fit.
Yeah.
So all the inversions fulfill my gymnastics background.
Yeah.
And then it has relaxation. Why not shavasana in a silk, like in the cocoon. And I do Lyra just because it challenges me with my upper body strength. It's kind of like the better version of bars for me.
Yeah.
So I can do a lot of those skills in the hoop.
Yeah. Was there ever that transition for you? Was it like, okay, I can't do pro cheer and journalism. I got to stop competing in that way. Did you immediately jump into all of these things, or did you have a transition period where it was like, well, what am I going to do now?
So I didn't opt to end my cheer career that was like made for me because of journalism. And I had already been doing the anti-gravity yoga and Lyra in tandem. And it was just, that was all I had left. And so it was a really hard adjustment, stepping away from a team atmosphere, stepping away from the people being in the same arena 5 times a week because you're doing NBA and NHL. So that was not my choice. but the other plans for me.
How do you feel about that?
I hate it. I thought that the way that it went about was very. It makes you realize that nothing is really yours, and that's okay because I had to relinquish power, and the psychology behind it is. Gymnastics and cheerleading is such control. You have to be so controlled and you have to be so disciplined in things. But this is something I couldn't control, and it drove me insane. But there's also an adult cheerleading squad in New York called Cheer New York. So I was still able to do Cheer New York until my schedule wouldn't allow me to anymore.
Got it.
So Cheer New York kind of saved me.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much a level 6 cheerleading squad. We just do it. It's kind of dangerous. We're on the street because we do a lot of parades and things like that. So it's a community service cheerleading squad that has performances. So it's not necessarily like you don't compete, but you're literally building 3 people up.
And you're still performing.
Yeah, you're performing. We have our cute crop tops. We still tumble, but it's on concrete. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. It's actually way impressive.
Yeah.
So I still had that family, and it's philanthropic. We actually raise money for youth seeking asylum, which is so relevant right now. That was the cause when I was still on the team, but now my schedule won't allow me to do it. But I was able to do all the circ fitness, and it helped me transition out because when you leave your sport in a competitive way, or when you leave the performance behind, it shows up in weird ways in your life.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that you find that happening still?
So
as athletes, we're taught to compartmentalize everything. Push it down, stay focused, win. But that doesn't always serve us as adults. So we designed a breathwork experience specifically for retired athletes. It isn't talk therapy, it's a somatic release that helps you process a decade of suppressed emotions in one powerful session. It's completely virtual and takes less than an hour. Grab your discount code in the description.
When you leave your sport in a competitive way, or when you leave the performance behind, it shows up in weird ways in your life.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that you find that happening still?
So when I stopped being a part of a team.
Mm-hmm.
And I founded Highlighter, and that was under the Warner Brothers Discovery umbrella. And so I would be working like 20 out of 24 hours. And my director, he would say, or Doug Bernstein, he would be like, all right, go home. Like, it's fine. I was overly competing, and there were no parameters for me. There was no like checkpoints like, you're doing great. So I was just overdoing work for, I want to say 2.5 years straight, no days off, because I needed somewhere to put that energy.
Yeah.
And there was nothing that like there was no.
Yeah, well, you were searching for external validation that
Yep.
wasn't there.
Yep. And it wasn't like I needed the words of encouragement. I just needed some type of like, this is a W for the day, or this is like this is how you won this period of time. Yeah, that didn't exist.
No, and it doesn't in so many realms.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's one of those that's like, it's hard. That's not the thing that you're like, okay, I know I'm coming up on the end of my, athletic career season. Let me just really enjoy this win-loss column,
Yeah.
But then retrospectively, we're all like, where's the win-loss column?
Yeah, there's
like, how do I, and again, I know it's like, you're not supposed to compare yourself, like all the things, but sports, in a sense, you're comparing yourself to whether it be your teammates in terms of trying to get starting time, things like that, or to the other teams in your league. Like, there's always an order. There's always a schedule. Yeah.
The beauty of like cheer is you compete against people, but you're chasing perfection. You're chasing that 100, right? So like when it came to when I was founding Highlighter, I was chasing what the perfect score of that was, and there was no guideline for that because it was so innovative. So I didn't necessarily look at other platforms in that time. I just looked at what could be the best form of creating a space for all levels, ages, abilities, and sports on the girls and women's side. And I just kept building, and it was the fastest growing one when I was moving at that speed.
Yeah. And
we saw the profitability, we saw the year over year increase, we saw what it was doing for women's sports. And that's what I kept chasing. And I thank cheerleading for that. I thank gymnastics for that, mainly cheerleading, because cheerleading, you have a score out of 100 and you can add skills to increase your value, and you can execute them in a way that it gives you more points. And so that's probably more of my mentality, as opposed to, I'm competing against this other platform or other team or other person, because I'm just chasing perfection.
Yeah. Do you feel like that is beneficial in your life now as an adult? Are you still chasing perfection?
I always chase perfection. I was the kid that didn't understand, like, it was, if I didn't get an A, that was like the end of the world for me. Like, that's how I've always been in life in general. And that's how I am now. But now my job is not necessarily that I have to be perfect, or I just have to show up and talk about sports. And the simplification of that is a jarring process as well for me, because I'm not leading a team. I'm not founding anything. I am simply talking about sports. And I don't mean to oversimplify that, but I do the best that I can every day. But I don't think there's a perfect way to deliver sports news. I have to reinvent what perfection means to me with, hey, did I bring enough personality? Was I clear with my points? Did I comprehensively look at the game and relay the information in a way that is digestible to the general public?
Right.
So all these things come to mind, and that's what determines my A for the day. But other than that, it's not like the same ridiculous grind that, I mean, it's still very much a grind, but it's not the same ridiculous grind in that way when I was a founder or when I was an athlete.
Yeah. What do you prefer?
I prefer being my best. So whatever my best looks like
at that time.
Yeah, at that time. So it's not like I prefer being a founder over talent. It's like, hey, what positions me in the best spot to achieve the end goal? My end goal is just to build women's sports, continue to build women's sports. So however I can contribute to that, I loved what I did with Highlighter, because you could see how it was impacting women's sports. And I have faith that I'm still doing that, but I definitely saw it more being the building blocks of what we see now for women's sports.
Yeah. As you, like you're talking, as you're transitioning into journalism and all that, and having that take up more of your time to where you weren't able to cheer as much. What was that time period of like the journalism piece? Did Highlighter start immediately at that point, or was it a little bit of time and then you kind of came up with the idea and started that?
So I started observing in 2014 that people weren't talking to my friends who played in the league. They weren't sharing their stories. And this is still the world's most famous arena and the top 144 players at the time going in and out of the arena. And I was like, why aren't people talking about my friends? And so I started putting up my phone like on a table and recording interviews and putting them online. And somebody told me, I think in 2015, that nobody's going to take me seriously because I was a cheerleader. And so what I did, I reached out to Howard Megdal and I said, I really want to write. And I got my credibility through writing through his platform. And he really gave me the ins and outs of everything women's basketball. I started building and getting credibility through editorial work and writing and posting my interviews in tandem. And then I walked up to LaChina Robinson, the draft a decade ago. I said, you're my goals personified. I want to be you. And so I shadowed her in Atlanta that entire summer and got the broadcast side of things.
Okay.
And then Turner or Warner Brothers Discovery reached out to me and said, hey, we're interested in working with you. And then I founded Highlighter under them. So it was like a 5-year difference.
Got it.
So I did the writing part about 5 years and then got discovered and then founded and then now am a broadcaster.
Yeah. I love it. No, but I think too, and when I first met you, I was after that San Diego Wave panel that you moderated and all of that. Part of it though, most people, like, depending on where they see you, right now, it's like you cover more and more women's sports all the time, but you do a lot of basketball, right? And like you said, where it's like you started writing some of the basketball stuff with your height, with everything, most people probably are like, oh yeah, of course Ari played basketball. And then it's like when you actually ask what you did, as you just told us, you know, already.
I'm so candid about cheer anyway.
Yeah, but it's one of those that, does that ever bother you? Does
No,
that ever
never.
bother you
It
what
never.
people
But I'm
think?
like, why don't they just guess volleyball? Like, it's always basketball. I never understood that. I feel like I'm built more like a volleyball player.
You really
I
are.
function like more like a volleyball
do.
player. Like that.
You really
That's
do.
my natural, probably my most natural sport.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I don't think people are like looking at like obviously like Maddie Skinner and being like basketball. No, she looks like a volleyball player. We are very similarly built.
Yes.
So I don't necessarily understand that, but
Yeah.
no, it never bothers me because why would I be a cheerleader at 6 feet? Like, you know what I mean? Like that's not the most known thing.
Yeah. You know that it wouldn't necessarily be obvious, but there's also that identity piece in it, you know, and you obviously feel very passionately about it.
Yeah, I have no problem correcting people and be like, no, my sport's cheer. And I never want to hide behind a facade. I never want to paint myself as something that's not authentically me. And so whenever people do say, oh, she played basketball, I'm quick to correct them because I never want to cheat the game. I don't want to approach anything without integrity. And I can recognize that my strength in basketball coverage is through player personalities and player traits as opposed to X's and O's. Though I do know them, I study so much.
Yeah.
My specialty is breaking down the game through the lens of the player and how they function through the sport of basketball, as opposed to this is the play that they're drawing up and this is why this works.
Right. When you mentioned it kind of in passing earlier, that at the beginning they were like, no one's going to listen to you or pay attention because you're a cheerleader. Do you remember, like, how did you feel? Like what were the thoughts? What were your feelings? Like, just take us there.
Again, this is because I was a cheerleader and a gymnast growing up.
Yeah.
I take advice like that as it is. So I said, oh, okay, this person said that nobody's going to take me seriously. So I naturally have to gain credibility. It was never like oh my God, they hate me.
Yeah.
Like I don't inherit that. Like I also modeled, right? And they said, hey, Ari, your measurements have to be 34, 24, 34, which are outlandish. But they had to be that because I wouldn't fit the clothes. Like I never am like, oh my God, they hate my body.
Yeah.
It's just,
you don't internalize it.
No, it was just the standard of the industry at the time. Now, does that make it right? No. Like, does it make the verbiage of they're never going to take you seriously right? No. But that was the reality of the situation. This was somebody from a network telling me this. Yeah. So who am I to say, oh, no, she's wrong? No, my job is to prove my credibility.
Right.
And that's how I always interpret it. Even at cheerleading, it doesn't matter why you stepped out of bounds. If you step out of bounds, your points are deducted.
It happens.
Like if you drop a stunt, the points are deducted. It doesn't matter if the flyer's ankle was shaky or your back was late to catch or your bases did something wrong on the load. it was just wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not because you're a failure. It's because you didn't meet the requirement of the skill. So I had to meet the skill where it was. Like, I had to build that and be more credible.
Yeah.
So nobody could say your credibility is shot. It doesn't exist. I was like, no, here's the proof that I know the game.
Yeah. Where does that not taking it personally and not internalizing it, where does that come from? Like, is that just how you've always been personality wise?
I guess only child, only grandchild. I never struggled with worthiness.
Yeah.
I never have been one to. I'm just a very practical person, I guess. I think I'm a little too practical, a little too black and white sometimes. Like, if you're prepared for something and you show up and the requirements are met, then you have a better chance of succeeding at it. So I don't think that that's a fault to me if I have to put in more work to prepare for something.
Yeah.
You know, like that's where it comes from. It comes from being realistic about expectations and the demands of my desired thing and meeting those expectations and demands.
And
like
knowing what you want.
It's wasted energy to sulk and internalize when you could otherwise put that energy toward building and sharpening your craft.
Yeah. And just doing.
It came from I guess my parents saying, hey, you're worthy, you're great, you're loved. And that's a privilege that I can acknowledge, like having the family to really instill that in me. And then also making sure that I know that whatever I want to do, I'm capable of doing as long as I put in the work, prepare for it, and execute it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just confidence from family, I guess.
Yeah. No,
upbringing.
There is so much. There is so much to that. And two, I think, like you're saying, and speaking as an only child and things, it's like, I'm sure people associate to that differently as well, you know, like, oh, again, depending on what the parents are doing and how that support is and kind of what groundwork they've laid for you. I don't know. There could be people that
people would be like, oh, she's spoiled. No, but like,
right. Or it's like, oh, the attention's always on you. Yeah. And so then if you don't get something, then all of a sudden that like throws you off balance.
Yeah.
And stuff.
I'm never, how do I put this? I am fortunate enough to have been equipped with my basic needs. My basic needs were always met, and you cannot function in life without your basic needs met. And that is the unfortunate just lottery that you're born into. And so because I didn't have to worry about where my basic needs are going to come from, I could pour into, hey, how do I build this pyramid of self-actualization, right? So like, that's just like psychology 101.
Yeah.
And because I was equipped in knowing that was a strong environment for me to be able to fail and continue to learn and grow, I'm able to fail and learn and grow from a place of security.
Yeah.
And being the only child I was never spoiled in that way because I was always self-driven. So I never wanted a handout because it doesn't give me satisfaction or gratification. Yeah. I wanted to work. I like the energy that it takes to work. I like learning. I'm a naturally curious person, so I picked the right profession to be curious. I'm curious about people's stories. I'm curious about the games. There's always another layer of learning that I can do. I remember this is back in the beginning before I covered all women's sports. And I was talking about WNBA player salaries. This was back. Yeah. This is back when it was like 50,000 they're making.
Yeah.
And then I had a softball player say, we only make 5,000 a season. I said, what the heck? And so like, that's another learning lesson that I had. And then so I was like, why am I not covering softball? So I was fortunate enough to work with Athletes Unlimited year one, sport one with AU softball. Yeah. And we did a lot of great work there, award-winning work there. Yeah. And then I realized the exponential growth of volleyball and wanted to help with that. And then integrated in the volleyball area and then all Olympic sports. And then I was talking at a seminar, an athlete seminar, and I said, I cover all women's sports. And then Maggie Steffens was like, you don't cover water polo. So I started covering that. And it's like, Maggie Steffens changed my life. She was like, actually, girl, no, you don't. But I love that because the athletes hold me accountable too. And so the general curiosity I have keeps me going.
Yeah. Did you know growing up that you were always going to work in sports in some way?
No, girl, I want to be a defense attorney. Then I realized I was too empathetic to do any type of criminal law. because I don't know which direction the empathy could take me, but it wasn't where I needed to be.
Yeah.
And then I worked a little bit in state government. I did PR.
Okay. Excuse me.
I did a lot with fashion because I was a model and I was also an editor at a magazine. It was like I had a whole bunch of lives, but I'm like, why not do everything you want to do? Yeah. As long as you have the energy for it and you can prioritize your time. Yeah. I've always been working in overdrive, and I remember somebody said, you cannot sustain this energy for this long. And I have. So, but I never want to look back at my life and be like, oh, I wish I would have done. So I did everything that I wanted to do, and I'm still continuing to do that. But no, I didn't know I was going to always work in sports. I was a model in New York. Like, I never thought I was going to do this. But then I went to a W game in 2014 with my friend. And I was like, oh, my God, they have cheerleaders. And that was my integration into that. But I've always followed the W since 97. I've always been around basketball. If you see my old Facebook, I was literally traveling with the AAU teams, not playing, just.
No, you weren't.
Like, it was crazy. Going to basketball camp for what? Anyway, but no, these are like, you can look this up. Like, school newspaper, I was the editor of the yearbook. And so, just handling all the copy for sports. But, like, I never put two and two together that I would work in it. I didn't have the desire.
Yeah. How did you get there? Like, how did you, when you made the first decision to start covering sports, obviously you were going to the game and you were like, people aren't sharing the stories of my friends and all of that. But, like, did you have that realization to, like, oh, when I was in high school, I was covering sports already once in my life?
So when I was on Torch Patrol for the Liberty, and we were still in MSG, I just would be in the tunnel where everybody else was in the dressing room. And I remember Frenchie, shout out to him, the best host in the world. He would be like, girl, if you don't just get out and like, just you're so into the game. And so Frenchie and I both were actively pursuing our dreams. And he kind of helped push me to like place my energy into it. And then I remember seeing the media row. It was Vopel, Doug Feinberg, Erica Ayala, Lindsay Gibbs, and Lauren. And I was in Howard Megdal, obviously. And I was like, why is nobody else talking to my friends? And so I was just like, okay, out of all this time, I'm in MSG anyway. I might as well just, when my friends come into town, go to the hotel up the street and record them. That's literally how I fell into it. But then I realized after about, a couple years into it, like my major was literally new communication media and English. Like, my dad's a mass comm professor. Like,
amazing. Yeah.
My mom was English major. Like, it was in my DNA.
What you do. Yeah. I
remember helping my dad grade papers when I was 13. He's a collegiate professor. Like, he's a professor. So I mean, it was destined to happen. There's so many. My best friend Krishan, she was my producer in elementary school for Lily Pad Live when I was an anchor. Incredible. Like, it was all these things come in retrospect. Like, you just don't realize that you were just setting yourself up for it.
Yeah.
And then even the performance with being on court in front of a sold out Madison Square Garden. That's performance. Yeah. When modeling, that's being able to take rejection. Like, my whole degree is based in writing, and I was just set up for that.
Yeah. Somewhere between your last game and now, you disconnected from your body. We designed a breathwork experience specifically for retired athletes. It's therapeutic, it's transformative, and it helps you release the limiting beliefs and the self-doubt that have been holding you back since you stopped competing. The whole thing is virtual, it's less than an hour, and it's done from wherever you are. Use the listener discount code in the description.
My whole degree is based in writing, and I was just set up for that.
Yeah. Well, and also when we were growing up in the 90s, none of this was being talked about. It wasn't being talked about in the early 2000s, when you started talking about it. It's like the whole see it and you can be it. It wasn't there. So also even being able to be like, okay, yeah, I'm writing for the school, newspaper, the yearbook, and then being like, I like this. Yeah. I can make a career out of this.
Yeah.
That's hard to conceptualize. Now kids can see it, and now kids can be like, oh, I want to do what Ari's doing. Okay, let me like keep pursuing the writing.
It really boils down to me being obsessed with my friends. Like, I just love my friends, and I don't understand why other people didn't know my friends. Like, that's really that's the core of this whole thing. Like, again, my best friends are Krishan Williams and Lakivia Boykin. Kiwi played basketball, Krishan ran track. I was always going to Krishan's track meets, always traveling with Kiwi's AAU team. It was bizarre.
That is
I just like why was I traveling with them? Anyways, but like There's a tweet up that's from my friend Jerry. She played basketball in high school. And she was like, I remember when Ari quit the high school cheer team to be our girls basketball manager. I just wanted to serve my friends. I love them so much. They were like my sisters. You know what I mean? So like that's really what it is.
And you were obviously already drawn to friends that were athletes.
Yeah. I mean, like we were all athletes together. I don't think that I had one I mean, that sounds crazy, but like I was cheered competitively, Krishan, track, Kiwi, basketball. It was just like that growing up. And then we would go to games for fun. Like North Carolina, Raleigh in particular, is a huge sports city.
Yeah.
Like if you're not playing sports, like I just didn't know. I wasn't a theater kid. I wasn't. Yeah. I mean, I played in the band, but like in middle school, I played clarinet, like whatever. But like my thing was sports. Yeah. And so everybody around me, sports.
Yeah.
And I've always been like my girls, you know.
Yeah. When you started, did your parents play sports?
My dad played basketball.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Did they get you into like, here, go try this sport, or were you the driver of that when you were a kid? Do you remember?
I think my mom and dad made me do Taekwondo. I know they made me do Taekwondo.
You're like, I know they did.
I chose the rest.
Yeah.
My dad really wanted me to play volleyball, and so I finally did it. I did it because Krishan did it. Like that wasn't like and I wasn't good at first until I found out that like I wasn't good because I can't hit. I can be disruptive though. I can block. And until I learned how to hit quick sets, and like quick sets is where I live. I live at the one. And so I when I learned that, I was like, oh my God, I got my confidence up. And then that's when I started like being a better hitter. But I did it because I love my friends.
That's awesome. I just still love that you were traveling an AAU's.
Shout out to the schedule. They were the Garner Flames back then. I think they're the Carolina Flames now. Shout out to Arnie and them.
That's incredible.
Kiwi, Asia, Brittany, Jarrell, Shayla, all them. Like we're out here.
I love it. What things are to come? What things? Again, you just keep pulling more sports under your roster. You know what I mean? Making sure that you're covering them, making sure that it keeps spreading. What are the things that you haven't done yet that you want to do?
Oh, that's a really good question, because I think that there's nothing that I can say that I have not done that I've wanted to do, but I continue to reimagine what my career looks like. So next up, I really want my own show that is all women's sports. I'm thankful enough that my employer has a show that's all women covering sports, but I want a show that's all women's sports and me anchoring it. That's like my goal. And I'm always married to my passion and not necessarily an organization. So wherever that takes me, that's what I want to do. And I want it to be like very invested in and very like intentional. But that's it. Like I've done the Olympics. I've done every championship you can do. I don't know. I really don't know. My whole goal is to push women's sports forward, and whatever that looks like at the time is where I want to sit. And I want to keep reinventing what it is for women's sports coverage and maintaining a safe space for both athletes to tell their stories and journalists to continue a career. That's another thing that's like interesting. My favorite right now, I love listening to Sarah Spain because it's so refreshing to hear a journalist talk about sports in a podcasty way. And I think that there needs to be more of that too. But I also love the creator lens. I love that everybody can have the platform to speak. But I want there to be space for all of it, for the journalists of the world, for the creators of the world, for the fans of the world, for the athletes of the world to have space and take up space. But I do want my own show. And I don't necessarily know why it hasn't happened yet. But we're going to speak it into existence because I never want to get comfortable with, we're growing, because we're not as far along as you would think with women's sports. Right. I know that we see it through a lens of the top teams in the top leagues. But until the entire landscape is served, there's so much more work to do. And then from a place of advocacy, I love championing what it looks like on the women's sports side. And there are a lot of gray areas right now that I have a strong stance in. And I want all athletes to be protected under that. So, that advocacy as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know a lot of this is people can kind of pull it from the, undercurrent of all of it. Why women's sports? why is that the thing that you're like, I'm going to devote myself to this for the rest of my life versus a different thing to be an advocate for, all of that?
On surface level, men have enough. They have enough people enthused about it. I've never been one of those people. And then women's sports just has so much nuance, so much growth opportunity, so much underserving that somebody has to dedicate the energy to it. And honestly, frankly, Billie Jean told me that it's my turn, so you don't say no to Billie Jean King.
You do not say no.
She was like, "It's your turn. What you doing?" I was like, "Okay, yes. Okay, great. Thank you."
As if I needed just like that little more motivation, a little kick.
It wasn't
BJK just coming in to.
It wasn't motivation. It was a demand.
It
was a demand.
Get to work.
And so, yeah, there's so much to be done on the women's sports side. There's so much legislation to lobby and fight. That's a podcast for a different day.
Yeah.
There's so much protection that needs to be in order. There's so much regulation. There's so many discrepancies in equity and equality and inclusivity and just general altruism that's missing within the women's sports landscape that needs to be exposed and dealt with. So until that is all smoothed out, then I don't stop.
Yeah, I like it. Do you ever feel like you would go back into like entrepreneurial side in terms of like creating and like being an owner, being a CEO again?
I never stopped my entrepreneurial efforts, but right now, especially in the times are so precarious, it's simpler to have a regular paycheck. That's really what it is, and I feel like I can be additive to my employer now. And so while I still have my my identity not tied to a specific brand or org, my talents lend itself to like be the building blocks of the org that I'm at. So yeah, I still see myself as an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, and a visionary, and I'm okay with owning that. And I don't think that stops just because I have a 9-to-5. You know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Was that hard for you to like say yes to the 9-to-5?
Yeah, like even at Turner, like I told him no. Like it was really, really difficult because I was a model in the early 2000s in New York. Like, why would I ever put myself in corporate? Like,
right. You're like, I'm not trying to be held down to this schedule.
Run around the city and talk to my friends and put it online. Like, I'm not gonna say I wish that things were like now back then, but like if things were like now back then, I would have never had to have worked under a company. But I am so fortunate that I was able to work for a company that gave me the runway to start something that created a movement.
Absolutely. And now you can make those impacts in the companies that you're within. So, but you're coming into it from a different space versus it being like this is taking away from my creative freedoms, those things. It's like, I can make change within the landscape.
And the great part about coming from an entrepreneurial background is that you can stand on your own 2 feet regardless.
Yes.
So that freedom and that independence, knowing that you can build something regardless, is a lightness that I wish so many people could carry, because you bring so much to the table that a lot of people wouldn't want you to be aware of.
Yeah.
And so when you maintain that sense of self, you function through spaces differently. You navigate spaces very differently.
Yeah. What things, is there anything that you want to put out into the world that you want people to know about you, about that you don't normally talk about?
Everything you see is what you get. Like I am me.
Yeah.
It's funny because people see my personality. It's pretty bubbly, but I am very much introverted. So I am into like the substantive conversations, which is why you'll see me a lot of times like be on a couch like this with the athlete and try to delayer them. But my most fulfilling times are the deep conversations. And I want people to know that like this wasn't an overnight success. This started over a decade ago. And I know that it can be discouraging for creators out there who are really trying. But if you just keep going past your point of like exhaustion, that's where everything just starts blossoming for you. It can get very, very difficult before it gets great. And even when it gets great, it's still difficult. So keep going, keep reinventing, keep fueling your fire, because your fire is necessary to this light that is women's sports. It never is going to, you're never going to feel like you're going to cross the finish line. You've never really made it. Those who are really good never really feel like they made it. But those who are really good need to take the time to enjoy it along the way. I've had so much fun, though it's been challenging. And those of you who have been in the game for a long time that see the new landscape of things, don't be discouraged either. Somebody very close to me told me, Ari, you can't get mad if you worked so hard to bust down these doors and people are walking through them. So keep things in perspective as you continue to go and grow through your career, because it gets hard, but that does not, you shouldn't want struggle for other people. You shouldn't want other people to have to go through what you went through. But I do want to say, the OGs out there, like, we have gone through things, and it's not as glamorous all the time as you think it is. But it is a point where we can bask in gratitude.
But it is. And it's that acknowledging. I was talking to somebody about this other day, and it was like, it's acknowledging that you're getting to where you always wanted to be when you were starting. And like, you have opened the doors. But it's also okay to still acknowledge that sometimes it's really hard. And you've got moments where you're just like, I'm tired and I'm doing all these things. But you're still like, you can have both. You can have that moment where it's like, okay, no, this actually really sucks. But I'm also glad that it even exists for it to suck.
You know I mean? If you're close enough to me, you know, like I am very much like I hate this right now. But then I have everything written. All my goals have been written. So if you look back at my vision boards from 5 years ago, even 2 years ago, I blow myself away. You have to keep things in perspective, right? But you can also call out when things suck. Some things just suck, okay?
Yes.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
because they do suck, and they should always be called out. But they're also fun moments of it. They're my moment of gratitude this year was when I was hosting Athlos, and shout out to Alexis. He's the best, literally so great.
Yeah.
And I was in the hotel room, and I just like looked out at my 360 view of Central Park. I'm like, thanks, Alexis. But I was like, wow, this is where sports have taken me. And then my friend Aaliyah, she's in Atlantis right now. She just did a TikTok about where women's sports could take her, and she's in paradise covering the game. Like, there are such beautiful moments that we can just bask in gratitude, and it's great.
Yeah. Again, you wouldn't have even been able to come up with that being a thing that you would make as your goal until you're there. And like you said, move the goalpost a little further. Because also that's kind of what we all do as athletes, right? It's like, well, once your team like checks this off, or you as an athlete, then it's like, okay, well, what's my next challenge going to be?
Yeah. And that's exactly how, like, with specifically cheerleading and gymnastics, like gymnastics, you have to fulfill a skill set and then you elevate, you go to a next level. Cheerleading, same way. Like, if you're a level 1, you have to get your back and front walkover. Level 2, back handspring. Level 3, standing tuck. Like, there are progressions, and then you don't know what's coming to you in level 5, 6, or I think there's 7 levels now. You don't know what's coming up there because you're focused on what's happening in level 1. You're focusing on what the lower levels are,
what you're in right now.
But when you make that world team, you're like, oh my god! And then now you're on a world team. Now you're fighting for a world championship. Then you're going like, it's just, there's so many different points of reinvention, and that's how it is perfectly juxtaposed with how life is right now.
I love it. Well, you're doing the good work.
So are you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ari, are you an athlete?
Always, forever and always. And my joints say that.
Yes. My joints give me credit for everything I've done.
Say that I am quite literally always going to be an athlete. I have the battle wounds to prove.
I love it.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a great moment. The comfy couch, the candles lit.
Got a little candle for you.
Oh my god, we have candle and water.
No, thank you. And I think too that it's, you know, when you're doing great things, people are always like, okay, wait, where did this come from? Like, where did this start? But like you said, and just like being an athlete, like, you just focus on what you got in front of you, and then
literally don't
push it to the next thing.
Everybody's like, how did you come with this? I just saw people weren't talking to my friends.
Like, I couldn't have. I couldn't have planned this all out.
How do you get started? Just start. Yeah. And that sounds ridiculously privileged, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's literally, if you want to talk about sports, especially nowadays, Just start talking about sports. If you see something that you want to, like, if you see something that's missing within the industry, be that missing piece. You don't have to do it with the best equipment. You don't have to do it with the best quality. Get it out there, and somebody's going to pay for it. People have so much money. Maybe not us.
Maybe not us currently right now.
But people have so much money, and they don't know what to do with that. You'd be shocked. So get somebody with a lot of money to invest in you.
Just go behind
but before that investment happens, you have got to prove it. It has to be a proof of concept. People are not going to just throw their money at nothing. So do not wait for your yes, and go ahead and fill the space.
Love it. Thanks, girl.
Thank you, Bookie.
Yeah.